Good night, and welcome to Mindful Live. What are we on now? 5:29. Thank you for being here. I am your co-host, Nathan Springer, joined this evening by the beautiful host. Host, what's your name, host? Leor Louis Springer. Thank you, host, for joining me and keeping me company to start off the show this evening. Say good night to the folks. Good night, folks. What's up? Once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen out there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button out there. Hit a like on YouTube too. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed if you are over there on YouTube. Nathan Spring out there on YouTube. Yes, the theme of peace currently speaks to border conflicts, wars, etc. Yeah, but that's the whole point, isn't it? That's the whole point. That some people say, when they say zone of peace, they're saying that the borders are secure and there are no national conflicts going on. While some people are saying the world that we live in right now is not a world like 1940s, not a world like the 1912s, not a world like those previous wars that occurred before. We're not looking at regular warfare. Warfare can include drugs and the trafficking, import, export, and flooding of markets with drugs and weapons. The only border we have in our region is Venezuela, Guyana. I think you mean the only border issue. But all the problems are not border issues. The opium wars were fought between the US and China, where the United States, I think it was actually England, partially, and the United States basically drugged up the entire Chinese mainland, and they're still holding that against them. And some people theorize that the current flooding of the US markets with fentanyl is as payback or vengeance for that. What are you doing, Lovey? As payback or vengeance for that. And that is a reality. If someone, a foreign actor, begins supplying a cheap, poisonous, deadly supply of drugs and flooding it across your borders, that may very well be considered, or can very well be considered, an act of war. And if we are locked into an ancient, if we are locked into an ancient thought process where the only way we see something as being a conflict is if it's in a military with a flag, this over-exaggeration of the Caribbean as a region of extreme tension ruins our tourism product. Wake up. Well, I think our tourism product is being ruined already. Tell people good night. You want to go do that? See you later, folks. Tell them that too. Bye.
Bye.
Alright, run along. Go take a sleep. Ooh. Exactly, Chef Lawrence. What tourism product are we talking about here? In the case of Trinidad and Tobago, what's our tourism product? What tourism product are we is being ruined by saying the Caribbean is no longer a zone of peace? Which product is being ruined? And I'm sorry, but with the reality being most of our tourists, whatever few we still get, come from Western countries and Western aligned countries. I don't think many Western tourists are going to be hurt by the idea that the United States has a military in the Caribbean. I don't think that's going to offend people and cause them to stay away. The reality be. Good night, Karim Delpesh over there on YouTube, as always, bro. We have an investment product, for example, oil and gas and now tech, correct? People won't want to travel to the various Caribbean islands. Which tourist sees American military activity against what they consider drug traffickers and that deters them? Like, which tourist was thinking about a Caribbean vacation, but now the US military is tackling alleged drug traffickers? They're changing their mind. I just don't see that as being a reality. I don't see that as being a reality. And let's see if we could jump into the article of what Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar said at the United Nations. The United Nations is a joke in the first place. European travelers don't exist then. So, European travelers, all of Europe exists under the US military protection. All of Europe exists under US military protection. Germany has been occupied by the US military since the 1940s. You think Europeans are offended by US military presence? Which European tourist is aghast and put off by the actions of the US military? Here's the thing, random numbers. I will block you if you attempt to throw pot shots, because you don't even have your name or a face and you want to speak about limited thinking. If a teacher say her school bad, you will send your child? Well, no, because her school is bad. But whether the teacher says the school is bad or not, if the school is bad, I will not. I will not be sending my child to a school that is bad, whether the teacher says it or not. And I will rate a teacher. I will rate a teacher much higher if she admits the reality of her school. I would not, if a teacher tells me this is a beautiful school, sir, your child is going to get a wonderful all-round education here in this establishment, and then I hear people are being murdered and taxed and all manner of illicit activities are ongoing in the school, then that won't be a good school. And I won't hold the teacher in high regard because, you know, she tried to lie to make her school seem good. So that's a good teacher. I disagree. I disagree. I think what we need are leaders who are honest. This, to me, as I've said since Mrs. Prasad won the election, a lot of what she says, I think, is speaking the right politics. Because very few people who are not politically biased would be of the view that Trinidad has been in a peaceful situation for the last couple decades. That's not a reality that the regular Trini lives under. Now, yes, when many geopolitical talking heads speak about zone of peace, they're talking like random numbers guy here says, and they're trying to say no bombs are dropping, there are no F-35s in the air, there are no IEDs being planted, so there's no official war. But that doesn't change the reality for the people on the ground. If my reality on the ground is my home has been invaded twice in the last 5 years, a few people I'm familiar with are dead, robberies are encircling me, then to tell me that, well, you're lucky no bomb ain't dropping in it, doesn't feel very lucky. To tell me that, well, actually we're trying to conserve the zone of peace in this area, while my entire family existence has been lacking peace. Telling me about a zone of peace doesn't work. Telling me about a zone of peace doesn't work. It doesn't help me anyhow. And then to say that the reason it hasn't been peaceful is just because the leaders are inept. So what we want right now is a leader to lie to us and pretend that it's actually really peaceful. No, that doesn't work. So jumping on the bandwagon, and this is why I say it's good politics. I am looking at those who are currently joining or attempting to create some kind of alliance. I saw a picture with our opposition leader, the Prime Minister of Barbados, the globalist Prime Minister of Barbados, and the leftist Prime Minister of St. Vincent. And someone posted that picture and the zone of peace. All right, yes, lovely. If you are attempting to make some kind of alliance that stands in opposition to current US foreign policy, I don't know if I'll call that better governance than aligning with US foreign policy. I don't get that. And I disagree with that. I don't think that our Prime Minister is necessarily being something odd to say what she is saying, because in the political aspect of it, she's speaking to a factual reality that people are experiencing. PM, region no longer a zone of peace. The Caribbean is not a zone of peace. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar declared this to the world yesterday, a statement that was diametrically opposed to that of the two CARICOM leaders, who also addressed the 80th United Nations General Assembly in New York. While two CARICOM prime ministers called for dialogue between the United States and Venezuela, Persad-Bissessar threw full support behind the United States president and thanked him on two occasions for the US military presence in the Caribbean, as she highlighted the murderous state of Trinidad and Tobago and the pressing issue of illegal migration. And you know, it's interesting because our Prime Minister, in an attempt to solve some of what we might consider the intractable crime issues in our country, at least ostensibly that's the reason she's putting forward, she is joining in alliance to the United States current Prime Minister in his effort there in the Southern Caribbean. Many people in opposition, many supporters of the opposition party are speaking like this is insane. How dare you? What a crazy thing to do. But our government, before the change, the opposition party currently, when they were in governance, their mission was to attempt to sue US gun manufacturers to stop the crime. Their attempt was to join up with Mexico with all their cartels, Mexico with their narco state kind of running. Join with Mexico in a court case to sue Smith and Wesson and them fellas, Glock and them guys, because the gun manufacturers somehow are really to blame for the guns coming in the country. So our former Prime Minister and his administration was willing to do a Hail Mary suing gun manufacturers in US court. Like, think about that. Suing gun manufacturers in US courts over what illegally sold guns in the Caribbean do. And that was a grand idea. But working with the US to stop the transshipment out on the sea is a bad idea. Boosters, I feel that first part of a statement could hurt what's left of the Caribbean's tourism. I don't think so. I think you all have a different idea of tourism. You do know that the embassies give releases and advisories, right? correct you. They give advisories. People who come to Trinidad already get the advisory. They know what's going on. Well, if they want to know, they know. You think a prime minister lamenting about the crime situation as it has been for the last 20 years is going to stop people from coming this year? Who whitewash you? What you talking about whitewash? What I want is for no one to whitewash the reality of our crime situation. That's what I want. Well, that's a different discussion altogether, Makando. That's a different discussion altogether. On the forward march of politics, you can only speak about what is being ostensibly put forward. Yes, you could think that they're there for another purpose, but our prime minister, it's not her business to go out in public and say, well, the US actually wants to steal Venezuelan property and resources. That's a foolish thing to do. And I know some of you who lean more leftward and more anti-US would love that idea. They would love that idea if our prime minister were to go out there and spit in the US face. But you would love that in your fields, but it wouldn't work well for us in the long run. As I always say, there are no aggressive gangs in... What's your definition of aggressive? These young men are just... Don't make me block you now, my candle. You come in here with this nonsense. These young men are fighting to survive. Men who robbing and killing elderly people in residential communities to go back in the ghetto hood and buy a case of Hennessy and drink it unalive. Them men just fighting to survive? There's a whole hood-rich superstars page devoted to the wealth of the hood-rich people, and many of them in Trinidad. The page was focused on Trinidad at the start. A whole page focused on wealth, devoted to people suspected of criminal activity, and them just fighting to survive. They were promised something, so they packed down, watch and see after budget. So you see, and this is what I notice with many of the people that speak like that. They are actually pro-gang. They are pro-criminals. I don't want people like this anywhere around my governance. I don't want them anywhere around my leadership. And this is what scares me with some of that leftward thinking in politics. Because some weird professor said something some decades ago, in a theoretical sense, sitting in a university. They want to turn actual real society on its head for that experiment. How about it's not actually that we have criminal gangs with evil men with evil intent who are greedy and want what is yours. No. These are just innocent baby angels. They're struggling. All they want is food to feed their families. Food to feed their families. Give them a chance. Since Kamala coming in, not available on the streets at all. Oh, which is, but also really good at the same time. You see though, Mr. Plenty Numbers. As I was saying this a couple weeks ago, if the US is indeed doing drug trafficking work, we are going to see. And I can tell you, people have been telling me that there's a difference going on. Trinis cooperate with these Veni gangs, so you can't just blame one, blame all. I'm not blaming any Veni gang. I'm not blaming one. But if we can get foreign help to cut the link between the Trini gangs and the Veni gangs, so all we have to do is focus on the Trini gangs, wouldn't that be a plus? And here's the thing, as I've said, I don't think our Prime Minister should necessarily be looking for an opposing position to Venezuela, the country. You can prefer all of this hard rhetoric against gangs and illegal activity, but not on the country itself. Because, as I've kept saying, if indeed, as the US is alleging and our Prime Minister is alleging, the Venezuelan government is in control of cartels, the ricochet, the negative fallout of warring them in words publicly may not be a good idea. Because what they can do, and I'm not talking about a Venezuelan military boat crossing the Gulf. No, that's not wise. I don't think Venezuela would do anything overt to Trinidad, because that will just make the US case stronger. I don't know what you're trying to say. I don't know what you're trying to say by that, McCandle. Yeah. Here's an example of exactly what is possible if the Venezuelan state actually is interested in subterfuge inside of Trinidad. Venezuelan armed forces gun found in St. Helena. Police arrested 2 people in the Central Division after finding a gun, a quantity of ammunition, and marijuana in a targeted intelligence-led operation in the Central Division between 7 p.m. on September 25th and 3 a.m. on September 26th. The Venezuela has a military, they would for sure have a cache of arms and ammunition. If Venezuela wants to spice it up in Trinidad and Tobago and decides just to start sending in dog cheap, flooded in arms and ammunition, what next? It's strange Trump didn't say drugs also traffic to DR but call Haiti and Jamaica. I mean, he said most of the drugs go to the United States. So I don't know what's the point of that. They're already doing that. Well, they can do it more. They can always do it more because we aren't finding an overload of Venezuelan-made weapons. Right, we have proof that TNT number gangs working with Maduro terrorists use that to get rid of them, you says. How are we using that to get rid of who them? The number gangs? And you see, beside the ulterior motives, and I am not denying here that there very well may be ulterior motives to the US doing whatever they're doing out there in the Caribbean Sea. I am not being naive in that sense. Obviously, I know that's quite possible. But a benefit to what's happening there is that you can take action without the difficulty of the court system. It is very difficult to convict people in nearly any court system. Nearly any court system, by and large, it's pretty difficult and costly to convict people. That first boat with 11 alleged traffickers that they wiped out, if they were to arrest them, seize the boat, bring them aboard, carry them over to a jail somewhere, I guess maybe in Puerto Rico, and then start them on a trial and go through the trial and convict them, find them guilty, and then put them in prison. That entire process very likely would cost the US millions of dollars. US based security team called Blackwater that dropped bomb on a children's birthday party. Yes, I know that the US has killed innocent people and children and young people, and yes, I know. Mr. Obama, it was his specialty. President Obama specialized in that kind of killing. He specialized in killing at weddings and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that was Blackwater necessarily who did that though, so I don't know that. Maybe you know more than me in that area. But why should that matter? You're okay with your gangs. You're okay with your gangs murdering children too. Your gangs kill children all the time. And you're saying those guys are just, struggling to survive. Well, the US is struggling to survive, just like your gangs are. So if you could excuse the actions of your favored gangs, then excuse the actions of the biggest gang in the world. They're doing the same thing. They're just trying to survive, like your gang friends. If that's the version of it we're using. Let's jump over to local issues, local political issues. Utica issues demand letters as breakfast shed closes. Breakfast shed food vendors shutting down. Food vendors at the breakfast shed Femmes du Chalet on the waterfront in downtown Port of Spain are shutting down their operations and moving out after decades of providing local dishes to thousands of customers. Tough. But, I mean, what do you expect? Why we always have to end like that though? End like what virtual vibe? Mother D says those vendors weren't natively Trinidadians. The food there does slap Natura says, you says breakfast shed is the most overhyped place in TNT, just a good location. Let's be honest, the attitude was atrocious. I don't doubt you at all, Mother D. I don't doubt you at all. I know that in particular, Port of Spain and environs, a lot of the lower class workers, for lack of a better word, a lot of the lower class laborers and workers in that area did come from the small islands in a process started since our first Prime Minister, in fact. Yes, I was on the beach yesterday. Mr. Fox. McCandle says, how these people not paying rent? Something not sounding good. They cater my wedding, Natura says. Two of the vendors, hey. You big Audi boy, you big Audi Natura. Vendors who provide food out of about a dozen concrete kitchen stalls were recently issued a demand letter for rent arrears, which collectively amount to nearly $2 million. I don't understand how that happens. I could understand how that happens. When the government is your landlord, things like that happen. Because it would have been very easy for you to cater an event in a constituency for a constituency event and talk to a minister. they said around 2 million, nearly 2 million. I believe the exact figure is 1.8. You speak to a minister and the minister tells you, don't worry about that, don't worry about that. The media that says 2 million say almost or nearly 2 million. It's, I believe, the exact figure is 1.8. Yeah, it's easy for the government and minister to tell you, don't worry about that. No, you don't worry about that. You go ahead and work there. But when governments change, what next? We see something like that happening in the United States. The former government, they allowed a lot of people into the United States on different programs. A lot of people. And then when governments changed, the new government said, nah, we changed that. Nah, that can't happen because they said the rent was high. What do you mean that can't happen? There are people in Maloney that have never paid rent. Never. There are many areas where the government has a business and people do what they want. It's obvious that something is wrong for it to reach so high. You would think that a warning would have to come some point before 2 million. Some point before 1.8 million, a warning would have to come. Now, I would like to hear from the vendors personally. I hope a journalist does that, finds one of these vendors and speaks to them, because I would like to hear the backstory to this. Those spots should be free, to be honest, Natura says. Natura, sorry. Need. Long E, long U. Natura. Why should it be free? And then how would we decide who gets the free spot? How do you decide who gets the free spot? And why should it be free? You know, there are realities to cost, you know. There are realities to cost. I am nearly certain if that spot is free, the quality would decrease. If you gave that spot to Starbucks, I'm not a star, Rituals. If you gave that spot to Rituals, I don't think Rituals would be owing 2 million. They pay for it, so they have to make money from it. So they would make sure that it is profitable. That's part of the purpose of it having a cost. A cost shows the value. And if the spot free, then the food free? Or is the spot free but they still get to sell the food? Why is that? Free spot, free food, why not? And I believe I also heard that the OT and tech are considerable sum also. I believe I heard that somewhere. Where did I hear that? The food there real cheap, so it come like a subsidy. What's going on with my keyboard? Eric Williams bring too many underlying questions. Talking about underlying questions, grieving cop quits TTPS, complains of poor handling by colleagues of dead mom's missing persons case. Well, Movie Tongue owner alleges that that was a bit of dirty play going on. He alleges that the government was trying to make a move to take his land. No, I don't. And I believe the Chinese laundry one was in back taxes. That's not the same thing as rent. We know that many people, many wealthy people owe the government taxes. Taxes aren't the same as rent. Rent is how your business stays functioning. Taxes is trying to avoid it, really and truly. The TNT Police Service is offering condolences and promising to look into the circumstances that led to the resignation of Junior Officer Russell Bedesi days after his mother, Sheilawati Mira Bedesi, was found dead in mysterious circumstances. However, Bedesi is not accepting the words of comfort from his former senior officer, DCP Junior Benjamin, and insists he will not return to the TTPS. I'm not accepting those condolences, and if it has to take them 5 days due to pressure, then it is not genuine, Bedesi said when contacted. He said the TTPS should not have to offer support now when all he needed was assistance to find his mother after she went missing last week. He said he stands by his decision to leave the service, saying he spent 11 years trying to fix a broken system with proper ethics, morals, and values. This situation is real sad. I don't blame the man, you know. I don't blame the man for being angry. And I think what he said there is part of the problem with the police service in its structure. The people at the top of the police service are people who have stayed inside that system, for a very long time. And it would be in their best interest to keep the system however the system is, because they have reached the top of that said system. And the problem with that is if the system is not working, or if it's corrupt, or if it is harmful, then the ones at the top have no motivation to change a bad system. And anyone who ends up at the top ends up there only after having won in that system. So anyone who ends up there also wouldn't want to change that system. And very likely the people who would be most interested in changing how terrible the system is would be the persons most motivated to leave. Because if you have to stay 30 years inside of a corrupt, horrible system before you reach in a position where you could actually enforce any change, then wouldn't that system poison you by then? You'd either leave out of frustration, or you would be co-opted into the same system by that time. Well, McCandle, go report it to the police if you're so confident of that matter. If you are so confident of that matter, go say it in big, report it to the police, and say the reason they aren't doing anything is because he financed a party. Sometimes we say those things and we aren't 100% correct. And I will take everything you say, McCandle, with a bucket of salt. You are the man who just told us earlier the murderous gangs in our country are just, fellas fighting to survive. Well, Lockjack is doing the same thing. Homeboy just want to survive. So why would you have a problem with what he's doing? Why would you have a problem with him? Homie just want to survive. Just how your homies want to survive. Everybody just want to survive. Me and Olia. Criminality is good once it's my criminal friends doing it. Sure. He added, the police, they could not come when my mother was missing. They got instructions to come for my uniform. And those instructions would have come from Port of Spain, from the top highest level of supervision, I want to believe, or the most senior person in the division, who has not even reached out to me to see my well-being or how I am doing. But they can send people for uniform. I could not care about that uniform. I've already given up my badge, Bidesi said. He added, this is the point I have been trying to make. I made a decision yesterday and I handed over my badge and ID. I told them in this station, book me in as a police and book me out leaving as a civilian. I do not want any part of this entity again. Bidesi explained that he had quietly handed over his identification the evening before, choosing to leave the service on his own terms. His decision, he said, was final. Yesterday evening, I was not upset at the actions. Lo and behold, this morning, the police reached here to retrieve the uniform. They could not come or go and look for my mother. And, you know, that is regularly the point that people make. That it seems like our police service functions at their convenience, not at our service, but at their convenience. You call when needed. We don't have any transport. Nobody could come right now. The police want to do what the police want to do, and 5 jeeps could turn up in a second. Some connected police want to gallery himself in a bar somewhere and get himself in a pickle. He make a call and 5 jeeps turn up. Our police force is one of the best in the world, nature says. By which qualification? By which qualification are you using to judge that, so, sir? Unfortunately, standing on moral grounds in every aspect of our government is only to our own demise. Maybe. More suspicious stuff. Twice missing Komal found at hotel. Komal Maharaj, the 41-year-old music teacher who was reported missing on Friday, has been found alive. Police confirmed last night that Maharaj was located in a hotel in St. Helena. He appeared to be unharmed. The Express attempted to contact Maharaj's relatives, but calls were unanswered. Earlier in the day, however, Maharaj's wife broke her silence on his second abduction in the past year, saying when her husband returned home from being held captive in Venezuela, he was never the same again. In a telephone interview with the Express, Joan Ramjas Maharaj said she feared for her husband's safety after he walked out of the family's Felicity home on Friday afternoon, never to be seen again. Since he was released, the wife is saying, we have been trying to keep in touch all the time as a safety measure. So we were messaging during the day. I went to pick up the children from school, and when I arrived home, the car was there. I went inside to look for him, and he was not there. I started searching, checking the cameras. And asking neighbors, she said. Ramjas Maharaj said her husband did not show up at the Arangwes Hindu school, where he was expected to teach a class from 2 to 4. And when she was unable to reach him on his cell phone, she contacted the police. A police report stated that Maharaj was spotted shortly after 1:30 p.m. sitting on a bench in a savannah in Chaguanas. He was described as appearing worried while speaking on his phone, and minutes later he was seen entering a silver Nissan Wing Road, which then drove away. But this was not the first time Maharaj has disappeared. In early July 2024, he went missing after withdrawing cash from an ATM at Price Plaza in Chaguanas. His car was later found abandoned in the mall's parking lot. That disappearance sparked a nationwide searching involving the anti-kidnapping unit and Hunter's search and rescue team. After 14 days, Maharaj was located alive, saying he had been held in Venezuela and returned to Trinidad by boat. Listen, like, stories like this, I want to go in so hard on Mr. Kumar. But the soft side of me, the soft side of me keeps wondering, in the extremely unlikely case that the man really has been kidnapped twice. Imagine if you really get some people out there like kidnapping you. They think it's a kick scene and they only kidnapping you, and the country catching Jones and you, the country laughing when you getting kidnapped. How cruel will that be? How cruel could that be? Like, imagine if indeed he was kidnapped. That'll be real cruel to be laughing at. So, like you know I look at that. The talk out there that the French president's wife is a mister. How the Guyanese are saying it, a partner? You're a partner? Not the French president's wife is a husband. That talk. And you know they have that talk about Michelle Obama too. That talk. And every time I see people talking about this, there's a part of me that thinks, what if these women are indeed just women? And you know, if you're a woman and you have certain looks that may be less flattering, I am sure you would know. I am sure you would know. And imagine you have your little unflattering looks, you're going down in age, and then the whole world calling you a man out there. Oh, jeez. That is extremely unkind. Extremely unkind. If it's really women, that is a very unkind thing to put out there. If indeed these are women. And I kind of lean in the direction of them being women. Obama wife looks good still. Sir, trust me, you do not want to go down that rabbit hole. Trust me. I know, Arlene, I know that there are women, and especially some women as they age, the androgen production builds up a little higher, and you know there are things that could happen, and for that, for people to call you a man across the world internationally because of that will be very unkind. The French people have children. I think they do, yes. I believe they do. The Obamas do also, but see if you can find a picture of that former First Lady pregnant and go down that rabbit hole if you dare. I do not. The lady is a lady. I believe that. The lady is a lady. The lady is a lady. But I'm just saying, the internet conspiracy theorists, if you allow them to talk to you for an hour, things start to look iffy. At best, everything isn't above board. At best, everything isn't above board. Ronnie, you could go down those rabbit holes, and trust me, 5 o'clock cock crowing and the sun starting to peep in the distance, and you're still taking it in, because those rabbit holes go very deep. There are lots of people with nothing to do but research things that don't really mean anything. So there are hours of research on these things. Hours of research. If you're interested in crawling down those kinds of rabbit holes. I just find it very mean, though. I find it very mean. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't call a woman a man. Exactly. Vanster, I don't know that in a Vanster. I don't know that. This kind of talk, I don't know. A hard thing to tell people. I find that there seems to be some resemblance. But I don't know. So the thing go. Yeah, I find there's resemblance there. I find there's quite a bit of resemblance there. You know, that's why I'm grateful for good strong genetics. That don't make sense, Vance. I don't believe that. What time you start? I started 10, somewhere around there. Yeah, and good strong genetics where the resemblance is so strong, there's no doubt. Where it all came from. No doubt out there. Anyway, people, that's all I have for now. Will Smith's son or daughter will grow. Yeah, I'm done. You see everybody looking to bring out their pet conspiracies here. This goes down a treacherous road. And y'all with your anonymous profiles, typing names, I'm not going to be calling nobody name for myself to be getting in any kind of trouble out here. That second one inviting up with you, she for mommy. Yeah, well, she on her own beat. No. Anyway, people, thank you for tuning in. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. Oh, anonymous. Thank you. I hope you're informed or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Life. If you're looking for those extra classes, music, schoolwork, starting all the way from early childhood all up to CAPE subjects, if you are interested, hit me up. Hit us up. We offer those in online and in-person group classes and individual for most of them. If you are interested, do hit us up. Until next time, people, hold it down. Stay good. Stay well. Stay inside, outside, sketchy. Peace.